Welcome back to your learning journey, guys. Now, in this video, we're going to learn about an important element of our learning journey, that is, what exactly is this machine learning? So, I'm sure you might be hearing a lot about machine learning, generative AI, but are you really sure that you have understood what exactly is this machine learning? Well, don't worry. I'm going to clear all the questions that you have got in your mind in today's video. So, what exactly is this machine learning? So before I explain about the machine learning, let me just explain how does the traditional programming approach would work. So if you consider the traditional programming approach, in the case of our traditional programming, what would happen is we are going to have an input, okay? We'll have an input. Now, using our input, we are going to write some logic. So we'll make use of our input, whatever the input that we have got, and using our input, as a developer, I'm going to write the logic. For example, if I have the inputs as A and B, I might go ahead and write the logic as y is equal to 2a plus 3b, which basically means that I'm using my input as a programmer. I'm going to write a logic so that I can get the output, which is nothing but y over here in this equation. So as a developer, who is writing any application, the responsibility of the developer is to create this logic. Now, to come up with this logic, obviously, developer can interact with the business people, business experts to come up with the logic. But the idea or the goal of this developer is to write the logic for the same so that it can accept the input and generate the output. This is what a traditional programming approach is all about. Now, this traditional programming approach cannot be applied in every scenario. Like, let me give you a very simple example. Let's say a real estate company comes to you and says that, hey, why don't you go ahead and give me a logic as how do I determine a selling price of a home in a particular area in my Bangalore city? Now, when you think about how the selling price of an area can be affected, it is dependent on the type of roof, number of bedrooms, garden size, lot area, and there can be a base price. Based on all these factors, the selling price of the house is determined. Now, as a developer, if you have to come up, like when I say developer, computer developer or a application programmer. Okay, so when you think about the application programmer who has to write the logic to find a selling price based on these inputs, then it's very difficult. The reason because see, coming up with these kind of logic is very difficult for any application developer. He has to understand the previous historical data, like what is the previous selling price of the houses in that particular area in Bangalore city, and then he has to come up with the logic. Now let us assume that he did all those work and he came up with this logic for a specific area, let's say a Belandur area in Bangalore city. Now, when this has been developed for a single area, now the real estate company will come and say that, hey, why don't you go ahead and do it for two other areas in Bangalore city? Because they think that you just have to use the same equation. But in reality, that's not the case. The application developer has to again interact with the experts of that field and come up with a different set of logic to do the same. That means for each and every area, he has to build the logic each and every time. It's a time taking process. Now, instead, what we can do is we can make use of the machine learning approach. Now, what happens in the machine learning approach? Instead of we taking the burden of coming up with an equation which represents the relationship between my input and the output like this, we'll give this burden to the computer. So we'll give this burden to the computer. Now the computer can come up with the logic to establish relationship between the input and output. Now that is what a machine learning is all about. Here I'm calling it as machine learning because machine is learning the relationship between my input and output. We are not doing anything. What we will do here in this case, we'll provide data and we will mention, okay, what kind of logic or a general principle it has to follow. Okay, now I think this is the traditional programming approach. Yeah, I'll just provide the data and I'll tell them, okay, this is what I have in my previous past data. Now I'm going to pass it to my program. Now this machine is going to learn the relationship between my input and output, and it will give me the model, which is nothing but the logic. Logic is nothing but the equation that represents a relationship between my input and output. As you can see, it's completely different than what it happens in the traditional programming approach. In the traditional programming approach, the application developer has to write the code of logic. It has to use the refer to the data, and then he has to build the software. But in case of machine learning approach, we'll just provide the data and our historical data, and the machine is going to learn the relationship between the input and output. Now, that's a powerful concept of machine learning, and that is the reason that we say that it's very different. It's very different from the traditional application building. Now, you can clearly observe that with this example, the way in which the models are developed is very different than the way the traditional applications are built. Now, when the building process is different, can we apply the same principles that we have been using it for automation? Can I use that? No, isn't it, guys? And that is the reason if I want to automate, just like we have been doing it for our DevOps, like for the traditional project, if I want to enable such kind of automation using the DevOps principle, there's a separate process that we need to follow. And that is what exactly the machine learning operations is all about. Now, this MLOps is basically an important way to manage such complex machine learning workflows and implement the automation on top of it. So with this example, I hope you're now clear about what is machine learning and how is it different from the traditional programming approach. Now in the next video, I'll take you through a simple process and simple structure as how does the machine learning project would look like. From there, you will understand the complexity that we would have in the machine learning project, and you will understand why MLOps is important. And because of its complexity, there lies an opportunity for you. By understanding this workflow, you will be a key player in your organization, just like thousands of learners in our community. You will be a key player in your own organization in the project that you're working, because you not only know how the traditional programming would work, you will also know as how the machine learning complex workflow would look like. So we'll explore all those in our next video. I hope you're all excited, and I'll see you next time. Also, I want to stress on one more thing. If you're watching on our YouTube or on our social media platform, go ahead and check out the link that we have mentioned in the comments or the description. Register on our platform so that you can get the certificate once you complete the set of videos that we have assigned for you. You'll get a certificate automatically from our platform for the hard work that you're putting in by completing this 1 day challenge, and you'll also be getting a special voucher as well. So I'll see you next time.